I have hit record.
You have probably already hit record, correct?
I actually just did.
Nice, very nice. All right, well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Today with Jared James. I am joined, as has been the case a lot lately, by Lindy Yakub. You want to say hello to everybody?
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
It's nice to do this again.
I know, it's been
I
a
feel
little
like
bit.
it's been a minute.
I know, it has been a minute.
Yeah.
And, of course, joined by Lumberjack Tom.
Producer
Hello.
Tom, everybody.
Tom, your mic is on, right? So I'll make sure, because I've seen it in the past where that's happened. He thinks he's talking into it, and you just hear like a murmur off in the background.
Potentially.
I call him Lumberjack. You guys can't see him right now, but believe me.
He looks cozy.
Yeah, he looks cozy. Speaking of cozy, we're about to look cozy because we are about to head to Mexico,
Yeah.
the annual family trip.
So you're saying cozy because of the sun, not cozy because of clothes attire.
I have a goal every time to get darker than you. I haven't reached that goal.
Okay, I think you are darker than me.
I'm sorry, into the mic this time? Say it again for the people in the back.
I really think you are.
That's not true, guys.
Like we were having this conversation in the car. I'm like,
Baby, the standard is so low for me. It's like you say that, and I think it's because it's like the standard is so low that you're like, oh my God, you look good for a pale guy.
you look great. I'm like,
Right?
you have like red to your tan, and I love it.
Red
I
to my
kind of
tan.
like that color.
Ah, that's a way to cover that up.
It's like I love a raspy
Do you
voice,
all
right?
pick
And you're
up? Do you
sick.
guys all pick up the guys? First off, a raspy voice is not the same as a little red to your tan. Okay, one is a backhanded slap, and
Anyways,
one is
whatever.
yeah. But we're getting ready to head to Mexico, and both of us right now are in shape. Or as I always say, everyone's in shape. Some people are the shape of a pear. Some people are the shape. Everyone's
Okay,
in
but
shape.
Let's also clear this up. We're in good shape in general. We,
Oh, of
we
course.
live a healthy lifestyle.
Yes, no, 100%.
But we like when we
I've
say
dropped.
in shape,
I've dropped.
you dropped a few pounds.
I've dropped
Quite a few pounds.
8-9 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8-9 pounds.
But,
I'm not staying there,
And you,
but
and you leaned up a bit, built some muscle. It's been kind of fun.
so let's talk about it, because this
Yeah.
is actually we have a lot we're going to get into today, guys. By the way, we're going to talk about the Department of Justice. We're going to talk about capital gains and whether they're done correctly right now. We're going to talk about some listings trainings and some other things going on. But I just want to get to. I always try to let's just handle the fun stuff right off the bat. Okay, so. We did a health challenge, which some people joined.
Correct.
And we've been
yeah.
in that group. I've been in the group. You've been in that group, making videos every single day, helping people. I mean, just like for the last 2 months, right?
And so this started at the beginning of the year, just like everyone else has their
Yep.
New Year's resolutions.
I made a decision after the Super Bowl that I wasn't touching a drink. And I want to be clear before I tell everybody what I'm doing from now on. It's not like I have some drinking problem or something, or like I'm drinking all the time or something. Like but
You're
alcohol
a
is
social drinker.
alcohol is poison. Like, let's just be clear.
It is
It's
poison.
poison, okay? And so
and sugar is cancer.
yeah, sugar is cancer, alcohol is
legit,
poison.
actually,
Yeah, like literally. And so at the Super Bowl party, I had a great time. I mean, I ate enough Rice Krispie treats for the next 10 years, and I don't regret it. But I knew that after that day, I wasn't going to have one cheat day. I wasn't going to have one drop of alcohol. I was not going to have, just be done eating by 6 o'clock every day. I was going to work out. Like, I always work out, but I worked out different
Yeah.
the last month. Like, I mean, I was working out,
Yeah.
right? And I dropped like 8-9 pounds, which for me, first off, everybody says muscle weighs more than fat, which is very true. And so that's an up and down journey, no doubt about it. But like everyone, I have specific areas. I'm 42 years old that like I want to drop and I want to, whatever. And I'm 8-9 pounds down.
Yeah,
and
you look great.
I'm not saying I'm going to stay right there. Like I always stay in a range. But I have made, I don't know if I think I talked to you about this. I have made some life decisions from the perspective that I've made a decision that, and again, full disclosure, I don't drink a lot to begin with. Let me just be clear. But I'm a social drinker. I am even if I just go out to dinner with my kids, I just have a vodka or two. It's just what you have. It's like, let me have a Tito's Club, whatever, Tito's unsweetened iced tea, whatever, right? And so I think I've made the decision from now on, though, that I'm literally just going to be a social drinker, which means, with friends socially. But like if I go out with my kids for something, nah, there's just no reason.
Yeah.
Eating healthy is not difficult. I don't think crazy difficult for either one of us because we're not when I say healthy, I don't mean like nutty, whatever. I just mean like you and I are not people who generally gorge out on.
We don't binge eat.
No, it's not like at
And we don't
nighttime
eat
we're
out all
having
the
2
time.
gallons of ice cream and
Yeah.
we're pretty consistent,
Yeah.
and then we have our times we go eat bar food, whatever, but we have a pretty good balance, right? This last month I have not been balanced. I haven't been crazy either. I just have not had cheat days.
But you know what's interesting? Once you establish a new balance, like this is the new norm our body has now adapted to.
What do I call it?
Equilibrium.
Equilibrium.
So this is our new norm. I'm down 6 pounds.
Yeah.
And
Thank God.
honestly,
Thank God. I mean, it was getting tough to fit you. I think I speak for Tom when I say it was getting tough
Stop.
to get you in the
but,
right, Tom?
Let's be honest.
Do not bring me.
We
Yes.
talked about this though. I didn't lose 6 pounds until when? The last week and a half.
The last
week and a half.
You were getting so frustrated,
I was
and I'm
so
like, babe,
frustrated.
you look great.
I was
But we get
building
so like stuck on
Yeah,
that.
It's a scale thing for
Scale.
me. But I also built so much muscle
Yeah.
that I had, and I build muscle quickly that I had to do more cardio and cut back on carb to lean. And it's crazy. Once you understand like the foods that you need to take, when you should be working out, when you stop eating, all of this stuff, it's the new norm now.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to Mexico and we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
our
guys,
body-
just so you know, when I'm in Mexico, everything I just said to you, I am eating and drinking
We're
like I'm on the
socializing
Green Mile.
24/7,
I'm
so we're
eating and
drinking.
drinking like I'm on the Green Mile. I'm gonna have every part of my body throwing up white flags, going, "What is happening here?"
Exactly.
Like, this is,
That's what I was going to say. But like because we have now
Yeah.
established a new norm, a new equilibrium, our bodies would be like, whoop, waste, not this, not that.
Yeah,
Right?
guys, I have a
But-
theory, by the way. I call it equilibrium. Like
Yeah.
you and I talk about this, where like if you ever seen somebody who loses a lot of weight or somebody who is just they're consistently at a certain point, you will notice no matter what they do, whether they eat like crazy, whether they starve themselves, whatever, the body always goes back to that range of that equilibrium, because it's the body saying, "This is what's normal to us. This is what we think is And I believe every person, every body has that equilibrium based on their lifestyle, based on the habits they have, based on, whatever. And so one of the things I said to you was, I'm like, I'm going to go on this trip and I'm going to eat and drink like I'm on the Green Mile. And if anybody doesn't know what that means, just go Google it. And my whole goal is that I've established a new equilibrium.
Yeah.
And by the way, my equilibrium was around a certain weight where like within 2, 3, 4, it kind of stays there. Literally, when I say I want my new equilibrium to be something different, it's like 3 pounds less than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for any of you who've ever like lost a ton of weight and then you hit a certain point, you can't do it
What
anymore.
we call our plateau.
Yeah. And it's like no matter what you do, you eat like crazy, but then you're good for a few days and it goes right back. Or you starve yourself and you lose weight, but then as soon as you eat a couple times in a row, it goes right back. I'm just establishing a new equilibrium based on the habits of my life. And one of those habits is that I'm just going to be like a social drinker. Like socially, when I'm with really good friends and it's worth it and there's a point to it and it's fun and it's whatever, then great. But just casually, I already never drank at home, never drank. Like, it's just not my thing. But like even just in my head, I always trigger that when you go out to eat, grab a drink. And that's
Yeah.
not wrong with it. Just for anybody listening, go for it. You're fine. Like if that's your thing, that's your thing. I've just decided for myself that for the most part, it's not that I can't do it. I just don't want to. It's just not worth it for me. It's just poison entering my body that when you look at how the metabolism, how your body metabolizes, it's going to go after that alcohol first, which means anytime it's going after that, it's not going after something else. And I'm 42. I want it to go after something else. I love the fact that, I won't get into detail here, but like my son the other day, I was doing something, getting ready in the house, whatever, and he actually stopped and he goes, "Dad, you look good." And I was like, I don't know if you guys have teenagers, but they do not hand out compliments. I mean, that was like the greatest thing I could. I'm like, are you messing with me? Are you serious right now? Or he's like, no. Oh. And I'm like, all right. Well, it's all the motivation I needed.
Yeah.
Like I'm on it now.
No, I'm excited. And honestly, I think the past 2 months with this group that we've been really kind of leading on.
Yeah.
And so, encouraging and collaborating with this health group. It's been fun to see like where everyone has started or where they finished. It's unfortunate at the same time, and I mentioned this actually in the group, how many have started and
You
never
see how many
actually
start and then they just
have
fall
never-
off.
Yeah,
You
fall off.
notice it.
and they fall into that statistic.
Yeah.
Of
How many people just
dropping.
don't? This is why I think like when I say consistency is undefeated, it's why I think it caught on like it did. It's because it's just true. It's so simple, but it's true. In our health group or in our thing, like it's not some major crazy thing that you or I do or someone else. Like it's just consistency.
Yeah.
It's I'm still posting the videos 45 days in.
Yeah.
You know, when 45 people have dropped off, when, you know, whatever it is, it's just, and I don't know about you, but for me, everyone's in a different place. I love doing the group, and I was extremely consistent with the group. I'll be consistent after the group. The group's over now, and I'm still consistent today. The group didn't inspire or motivate. I didn't do better because I was in the group. A lot of people did, and they needed that.
Well, they need a community. Maybe that's
for
what they
me,
needed.
what I learned from being in that group was how consistent I've already been.
Yeah.
Because I was going to do it regardless. Like it was happening regardless. But then you see so many people who are in that group who need it, and that's good for them. That's awesome that they, you know, and it's awesome to be able to inspire and put that consistency in front of them. But one of the things I did take from it is that I was proud of myself and you. It's like, we're doing it regardless.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, that's a closed group. That's not for Instagram. That's not for, that's just, this is what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so,
well, what is the saying? Consistency always outweighs motivation.
yeah, consistency is way more.
I mean, there's so many days where you and I are not motivated.
Motivation has nothing to do
Exactly.
at all. I always say
Exactly.
motivation. I always say motivation's overrated. You know, you're not motivated to get in the shower. You know, you just don't want to walk around as the dirty kid.
Absolutely.
You know, or the dirty person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sucks that you have to do it every day. It's like, didn't I just do this yesterday? But you do it. And you do it because you don't want other people to judge you. And what's amazing is when it comes to things like health and otherwise, it's amazing how quickly we will disappoint ourselves before other people. It's amazing how quickly we will do the things that are outward and other people will see before we will do the things that are inward and that take care of
Yeah.
ourselves, because it is so much easier for us to disappoint ourselves than to disappoint other people. And we've kind of come to grips with that. And what you learn in doing all this is that that's not okay. You know, all the stuff you hear, the cliches about I come first. Like a little bit of selfishness is good. You know, if someone calls you selfish, it's negative, right? And yet imagine a world where you have no selfishness. You need to take care of yourself. You need to, otherwise you're no good to anybody else.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you learn that when you go through a group like that and such, of just how important it is to be a little selfish so that you have something to give someone else. What do they tell you when you're on a plane? And if those things drop down, they say
your
put it
mask
on
on
put it
first.
on first before
Yeah.
you get to your kids.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're not going to be able to put it on your kids. And you learn right away that there's the cliche, what everybody says, then there's the reality of the world where a little bit of selfishness is necessary in order for you to be able to help everybody else. And so, you know, that's a powerful lesson to learn from all of that. But
Yeah.
anyway, so Mexico, here we come.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm gonna have to get up on my Spanish a little bit.
We
you
have
know.
Grace in there for that. Don't worry.
Oh, that's right. My son is just about fluent in Spanish. So, and by the way, when I was in Portugal, I was reminded of the fact that Spanish is way different than Portuguese, because I walked around trying to be like the man.
Wait, how was Portugal?
I'm the gringo that's going to talk Spanish to everybody, and I'm looking at everybody just kind of being like, you know, and I'm like, what is their problem? Like, I'm talking to them, and then I realize I'm not only not the guy that doesn't speak their language, I'm the guy who thinks he's speaking their language and just looks like an idiot.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so
All around.
why don't you get up? Why don't you get up in front of an arena with thousands of people and say "Hola" and realize "Hola" is not how you say hello in Portuguese.
It's all translating.
They're all going. Is he think he's in Spain? Like what's going on right now? You know, and I'm confident. I'm smiling the whole way through. Freaking idiot. Like idiota, as they would say. I don't know if that's my best Spanish or
gosh.
Portuguese, but idiota.
But real quick, we have a lot to cover, but Portugal was good.
Yeah.
It's great.
Portugal was great.
A couple days there, right? Was it
Yeah,
a few
Portugal.
days?
Portugal is one of these days I'd like to go there with you, because there's places right outside of there that are just gorgeous that I'd love to. But super cool audience. The language barrier, I'm joking, but was not really a thing. Like a lot of them spoke English. Even the ones who didn't, you know, translators were on the ball, and I felt like it was really. I left feeling like I had more to give. If that makes sense. Like, which is better than leaving feeling like, well, that was about an hour too long of training.
Yeah.
You know, I left going, I could have talked about so much more.
That's good.
And it was just good to get back out there. And I had this moment, though, and I said this to you. I was looking at pictures a few days ago.
Oh, yeah, you did tell me that.
I did. I kind of had a moment. I was looking at pictures. We had a bunch of pictures from previous events and stuff. And I'm getting all these pictures in of, like, me in an arena. Like, not one, several different events. And I'm like, I just had this moment where I'm like, I'm a kid that, you know, I grew up and everybody's, like, just telling me to shut up all the time. And, like, now I'm like looking at these pictures of like me talking in an arena with thousands of people, and I'm just like, holy crap. And on one hand, it's so freaking cool. It's so freaking empowering. It's so whatever. But I also love that I loved it. Meaning, when I'm home, I get so into like my dad mode, my daddy mode, my running the company, doing whatever. You don't even think like that. You don't even think like, I talk in arenas. Like, you don't even think of that. And then you see these pictures and you're like, oh my God, like I'm that guy. I used to see people like this. Like, this is, it's so freaking cool.
I mean, sometimes it's good to look in the rearview mirror and recognize like how far you've come.
It's such a, this is so cliche, but it's such an honor. It's like, oh my God, like I'm that guy. Like, holy crap. And that's, I think every very successful person has a bit of imposter syndrome, which is completely normal, but I think it's good. You know, it's like we all try to get rid of it. And I think it's actually good. To just accept it and move forward. It's kind of like, man, there's been so much stuff coming out lately, and I know this wasn't what we're planning on talking about, but they just did all these studies and everything on why this generation is so anxious and so depressed. And do you know what they came up with, why it is? Because they're so in touch with their feelings.
And we just talked about this at like the Starbucks.
And so literally they're coming out with now, all the research is showing that the reason why they all continue, I forget the word they used, but the reason why they're all depressed, all anxious, all whatever, is because all they do is talk about it all the time. And so when you're constantly going to therapists and you're constantly talking about it on your social and you're constantly talking to your friends and we're all just in touch with our feelings and we're all just, you're literally just exacerbating that feeling. And then what happens is that you get the actual feedback from people who feel bad for you about it, or they show you attention in a world where you want it, and you go, well, I don't want to get rid of that, because if I get rid of that, I don't have that. And then not consciously, but subconsciously, that's what happens. And all these studies are coming out now, and they're like, yeah, the fact that everyone talks about how depressed they are, everybody talks about how everybody has to, for the next 10 years to talk to someone about whatever. They're like, if you would just move on and go run errands. Literally, they said one of the best things you can do is go run errands. And this isn't like my opinion, guys. This is like, this data is now coming out. They're like, one of the healthiest things you can do is go run errands and stop thinking about how depressed you are. Stop thinking about how anxious you are. Go do stuff. But you have a generation now that's just like,
I know.
We just all talk about it. And how are you doing with your anxiety? And here's how I'm doing
and
my
they make
anxiety.
Their
and I feel depressed.
Based off
Why
all
do
the
I?
Emotions around.
Oh
them as
my!
well.
And because what you feed grows. What you starve dies.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I see a lot of that on the employer side. Like when I was running my previous company and a lot of that generation that was a part of that company and supporting it, everything is based off emotion. Like whether they stick around, whether they jump around, whether they, whatever.
And we're just exacerbating. I forget the word they used. It was a pretty good word that would make me sound really smart right now, but I forget what it is right now. But anyway, so that was really cool, just having that moment and seeing those pictures and just going, wow, and then feeling imposter syndrome, but then living in that and saying, that's okay. I want to feel like an imposter. Because when you feel like an imposter, you feel like you always need to prove yourself. And I think there's something really cool about living in both worlds. Of one hand, believing that people should believe what you have to say and listen to you, but then on the other hand, saying, I need to earn this every day.
Do you take the time to reflect quite a bit or no? I feel like you're such a busybody.
Yeah, no, I don't.
That you never sit down and actually reflect how far you've come.
When I do, I have moments
forward.
like that where I'll say to you, I've made it a point now. Look, I've went through some major life changes the last few years, right? And so it has forced me to really kind of become more human and that EQ side kicks in where you like self-evaluate and you do whatever, and it's forced me to kind of like stop and, the cliche smell the roses, so to say, but just kind of like go, hey, because what happens is that you get inundated sometimes. Here, let's bring this back. So I have taught people for years that the job of any business is to create new problems, okay? And because the real sign of a successful business is the increase in the size of the problems that they're solving over time. So it's not that they eliminate problems, it's that they continue to have bigger problems to solve. That shows that they're growing, right? And so part of that is that when you get to a point where you're really frustrated or you're having a day where everything's going wrong and it's just problem, part of that self-awareness is to stop and go, why am I in a position where I'm able or we're even dealing with these kinds of problems? It's because we've gotten here.
Correct.
Because we didn't have these problems 10 years ago. And so while it's frustrating and it's difficult and it's stressful, you also have to stop and remind yourself that I get to solve these problems, right? Mm-hmm. I would have prayed to have these kind of problems 10, 15 years ago. And so I've made it a point to kind of be a little bit more reflective, a little bit more
I think it's important for you to do that. I mean, like someone asked me, like, how do you weigh success? Like for me,
yeah,
like, today,
yeah.
And quite honestly, like for me, success is a little different. It's more looking back at what the hurdles that I've overcome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a long way to go still with First Step. We're 6-7 months old.
Yeah.
Right. And we're growing rapidly, but success to me is like the things that I've had to overcome in the past year, 2 years, personally, whether it's with work.
Yeah.
And that's how I measure that. So that's why I asked you, do you ever take time to reflect?
You're feeling good, though. Come on, though. You've more than once the last few weeks just said to me with different clients that we've signed with First Up and different, you've said to me more than once, like, oh, my God, we got this. And look at this, revenue, that. Like,
it's wild to me. I mean, I was able to accomplish with the previous company to what we've done together with First Up, I've done in 6 months' time, which took 4 years.
Yeah.
Then, right? But a lot of it is because all that testing, all that understanding, all that building, all that system.
You hit the ground running.
It's like we knew what to do.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
Yeah.
But so it's been fun. But I mean, this is just the beginning too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just asked if you reflected because it's very rare that I get a text like that from you.
Yeah.
Because you're always what's next, what's next, what's next.
Very much. Very much.
There's always something going.
Yep, very much. And I think a lot of that has to do with, too, you just start to, I see first off, my older child's been very reflective lately, which puts me in that place. He sent me a video, and it was that song,
and I
won't see you again. And it goes from, like, a video of him.
Toddler playing soccer.
As when I was coaching him playing travel when he was a wee bit of a boy. He could have been one of the midgets on the Wizard of Oz or whatever they called little people. Like he could have been one of those. And then all of a sudden now he's taller than me. And it goes from him playing soccer, sliding in when he was a little boy, to all of a sudden like him now the last year where he's like a man out there, whatever. Well, and it's like I'm like, oh my God.
Well, you just created his reel
for soccer, for recruitment and stuff, So anyway, so you start to see these things, and it creates reflection. If you're smart, it creates reflection. For to see what you can do better, to see how far you've come, to see what you've done right, to see like all of it. And I think it's important. It is. It's the whole process, right?
Yeah.
What was the thing I said to someone once? I said, I don't climb the mountain to get to the top. I climb the mountain because I enjoy the climb. Mm-hmm. And you got to remind yourself that, like, I enjoy the climb. You know what I mean? Like, and I really do. I love the climb. That's why, the mindset of an entrepreneur, it's like, they can be very frustrating to be around. Because just when you're like, we got it, we're there. We're like, well, we're doing this now. And you're like, whoa, we just got here, And yet, that mentality is always, and it's not because, a lot of people think it's because entrepreneurs are impatient and discombobulated and whatever. In some cases, they are. But in many cases, with good entrepreneurs, it's because they enjoy the climb. Mm-hmm. And so the moment you get to the top, it's like, well, this wasn't the point. Great. Yeah. The top lasts. Think about it. How long the climb lasts and how long the top lasts. The climb is months or years or whatever. The top is when we climb, the mountain in Scottsdale, right? It's 45 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever it is, right? And then we're on the top for 30 seconds.
I know.
So if the goal is that, well, that's a problem because we're not going to spend any time here. So when you start to make the goal about the climb, which is much longer, now you set yourself up for success because 99% of the time you're in the thing that you define as success.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's the key, learning to love the climb. But anyway, so Mexico, here we come.
Yeah.
Here we come. I can't wait. We're going to have an early morning, but it's going to be absolutely amazing.
It'll be fun to be on airplane mode, disconnect for a little bit, and then get right back to it. Because once we get back, you are like,
we got a lot of things going on. We're about to add, for a lot of you who listen who are in real estate, we're about to add to our site a whole resources page, which is going to have all sorts of templates and scripts and dialogues, all updated stuff you can have for free. All you got to do is put in a name and an email where we can shoot it off to, and we're going to start giving you campaigns. Like, I'm in an all-out thing to help this industry right now. You know, when you look at where the industry's at and what's going on, and you know, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Like, it's just every day, it's like somebody's standing behind a barricade with a grenade and just taking the thing out. They're going, here's another one, boom, and they're seeing who's going to last. You know.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a thing right now where I'm trying to just shield as many people as possible, you know, so that they're a part of that World War II movie, you know, when everybody came after the real estate industry and people were dropping like flies and people are getting knocked off and people are getting sniped and people are getting, you know, I'm in it to really, this is when.
Do you feel like it's a lot of noise versus like unnecessary noise, though? I mean, I feel like a lot of it is
until the last
unnecessary.
couple of weeks. I was with you, and I
I'm
would
like,
completely
oh my
say
gosh,
that.
here we go, another
All right.
article with so
All right,
and so.
So let me
like,
talk
that's
about
why.
this real quick. So I have said forever, and I really, when all these lawsuit things were happening, okay, and basically the industry, even though it was NAR and otherwise, the industry got found guilty of colluding and price fixing. You know, please, agents can't even work together on a deal. Now they're colluding and price fixing against consumers, whatever. It's so ridiculous. I don't even know how to, like, how do you collude and price fix in a world where people can go to a discount broker, in a world where people can represent themselves, in a world where somebody can negotiate their commission? It's so absurd, okay? And like I've said before, fought for in court by attorneys who get paid the same way. If you're going to say that because it's a percentage-based deal and somehow that makes it unfair, that means that the agent at hand, the salesperson you hire, now doesn't have your interest at hand. Well, then you're not just attacking the real estate industry. You're attacking sales. Sales. Think about that. Every time you buy a car, every time you go get furniture, how do you think that works? It's called sales. Like, so that's a whole other topic for another day if we're going to start going down that route. But true to just about everything in 2024, crazy becomes normal, you know? But a couple weeks ago, I would have agreed with you because I've even said on this podcast, guys, what's changed?
Nothing.
And the answer was nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So let this one win that. Let this one. Nothing's changed. Like, whatever. Now the DOJ got involved. The Department of Justice. What a name, by the way. Like they're freaking Batman. You know, the Department of Justice. They're after justice. I want to know who named that. Okay? Because once again, true to form, they are putting their noses in areas where it doesn't belong. Not only where it doesn't belong, but where it's not needed. And so the Department of Justice got involved. Now, if you're in the real estate industry, that's the scary one, not the lawsuits. Because the DOJ can do things, whether they're right or wrong, but still implement them. There's been a lot of changes the DOJ's came in the last few years that, like, made no sense. It doesn't matter if it makes sense.
Yeah.
We said it.
I mean, actually,
and now it's not a jury of your peers.
Correct.
Now it's just Gestapo says so. This is what will change. And you get these people, if you look at what just came down from the DOJ came out, the Department of Justice came out and said they want a decoupling of commissions, meaning the seller as it works now pays by the way, the listing agent, and then the listing agent has the ability to pay a cooperating broker if someone else brings the buyer. They're like, we don't want them having anything to do with compensation to the buyer's agent. Not at all. Now, that becomes a major issue because the same Justice Department that in every area says that they're looking out for the little guy, they're looking out for the less fortunate, they're looking out, you know, for those that are, who have the most issues, who are the most not segregated. What's the word I'm looking for? They're the most harassed, discriminated against. When they come out and say no more of it being paid the way it's paid right now as net proceeds in the closing, now the buyer, in addition to coming up with closing costs, in addition to coming up with the percentage to put down, in addition to all that, you will now come up with the commission for the agent too. Who's hurting that? It is those that are most vulnerable, who are buyers, who previously would have been renters, but because of the programs available that they put forth to help these people to buy properties, who now are supposed to come up with thousands and thousands of dollars more to fix this system or whatever, who's going to be affected? It's the most vulnerable. If I'm buying a house and they change the rules and that happens, I'm going to be ticked. But I'll be like, what? I guess that's the rule, whatever. If Joe Schmo, who works a salaried job, saves a little bit of percent at a time, works his way up to getting into a house, whatever, then finds out he's got to drop another 10 grand on whatever, now I can't buy a house. Who's actually...
I mean, that could even affect an approval process.
Oh, 100%.
That's
like,
a ton of money.
It's absolutely nutty. And so they come out and say they want a decoupling of commissions. And here's the funny thing. They say that they also want no compensation offered, not lowered, no compensation offered in the MLS. And the reason for that is because...
Like displayed in the MLS?
Yes.
Sorry, okay.
Because when a seller offers a certain percent and another seller offers a different percent in the same MLS, so these are competing against each other, that it is going to limit the amount of agents who will show the lower percentage property, and that agent is going to steer buyers away from that property. Well, let's deal with this for a second. Number one, just so you know, Sales 101, it's called compensation, is about creating incentive. Yes, if you offer more, there's more incentive. But the idea that when you offer less, the buyer's agent is steering the buyer away, that shows you how out of touch this DOJ is. What world are we living in where agents are steering buyers to properties or away from properties? That data war ended over 10 years ago. That was the whole stop giving our stuff to Zillow, stop giving our, whatever. 99% of the time, the buyer is seeing the property on the sites they're on and giving it to the agent and saying, hey, would you show me this property? You can't steer them away. They have every access to the data that you have. What will happen, though, is when you're making them pay the commissions and not being paid the way that it is right now, the buyer themselves are going to steer themselves and go, wait, on this property, I'm not going to have to pay. On this one, I have to cover thousands of dollars to my buyers. I'd like to go to that one first. And so, first off, they have no idea what's actually going on in the industry to think that agents are going to steer buyers, because that data war ended years ago. And second off, what the unintended consequence of that is that now you're going to have buyers themselves who steer themselves away from properties. And the other argument the DOJ made was that they want to make this change to ensure that, with that whole steering message, that properties all get the same amount of traffic they should get, and that buyers are not steered away from properties. Are properties having an issue getting showings? Are properties we're getting 37 offers on every property. So what exact problem are you fixing?
Those only that only affects for sale by owner homes that are not getting put in the MLS. That's the only one that really affects. Unless the MLS does not syndicate listings, if hypothetically.
So here's my point, though. If you're jumping in and saying that that's the problem you're trying to fix, how is that even a problem right now? It's not a problem. Like, what are you fixing? Do you have nothing else to do with your time? That you're jumping in and trying to save all you're doing is hurting the industry. And again, it's not the industry. You're hurting the consumer. The consumer's the one who's going to pay the price. And then we're going to get to, okay, and then they said, well, you could ask the seller for a concession. It's like a negotiating tool to pay for the buyers. Are you freaking kidding me? So in a 37 offer situation where you already have the consumer dropping appraisal contingencies, dropping inspection contingencies, you can live rent-free in the house for 2 months and you already had the buyer giving up so much because there's so much competition involved. What are you now doing to them when you're making them ask for we'll have a seller concession? Eliminate. Let's go to these people. So once again, you're now getting rid of the lowest income buyer who can't afford to. They need the concession from the seller. Who are you hurting? And so it's just like the unintended consequences of all this are just
so you are more like DOJ, just stay away. Leave it how it is. Stay away.
What are you fixing?
So
you're complicating something that's not fixed. Like, there's no issue there. The issue you said you're fixing isn't happening. There's no issue there. They're all getting plenty of traffic. They're all getting plenty of showing. They're all getting 27. What are you talking about? Like, why are you getting involved here? But you are, in turn, not only not fixing something, you're breaking something. You're hurting those most vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, like, how does that make sense?
I think at some point, like, fair housing is an issue at that
point. Well, that's what NAR is now coming out and trying to say. They're saying this is not in the best bit. There's fair housing issues here. There's discrimination issues here. That's what they're now trying to come out and say, NAR, National Association of Realtors. It's like, why do we even have to fight this fight? Like, you literally just want to walk over to the DOJ and be like, are you stupid? Like, are you stupid? Because it's like, these make no sense.
Yeah.
Like, and you know me, I'm like, I'm a logical, whatever. Like I think all these things through back and forth, and I just go, what are you guys even thinking? It's just stupid. It's stupidity, And here's the best part. They would like to see the percentage replaced by a hourly fee.
Oh, yes.
So let's go down this road. First off, hourly fee is already available. No one uses it. You know why? Because it's a terrible idea, okay? Can you imagine a real estate world? Imagine the industry in a world where you are now invoicing your clients hourly. So they've got to trust that you looked for houses the amount of time you did, that you put together that proposal for the amount of time that you did, by the way, what happens when they look for a year and don't buy and you send them a bill for $18,000 and they don't want to pay it? Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't buy anything. I still work the hours. So what's going to happen to our industry now when it's full of lawsuits with agents, brokers versus consumers? And don't think that those courts are not getting flooded with those.
Yeah, and quite honestly, there's so many systems in place right now, and MLS that sends out client portal stuff that really I'm not doing anything, but I could say, hey, I should get paid for it.
The door that opens up.
I mean, there's so many.
The door that opens up with billing hourly, and it has nothing to do with, it's not performance based anymore as far as actually purchasing a property, actually getting it at a certain price, actually getting it at, not to mention, let's go one more level here. So forget about the lawsuits that will happen from broker to consumer, where they're suing consumers because they're not getting paid for the hours that they billed, okay? What does our industry look like right now where it's no longer incentive-based and I get paid hourly, which means do I want you to get that property? Do I want you to get the next property?
I'll make more money if you don't.
I want you to miss out on 47 properties. What does the industry look like where do I want a smooth transaction during the third most stressful time in your life, death, divorce, and moving? Or do I want the most difficult transaction we've ever had because I can bill more?
And obviously, I understand what you're saying.
Agents become attorneys. That's what that becomes. And how does that serve the consumer on any level?
And that will force agents to go against the code of ethics.
Because God knows that the image of attorneys is great. So let's make agents
so
that.
Crazy.
It's stupid is the only word.
It's like just stay in your lane.
Stupidity. It's absolute stupidity.
Well, we'll see how that rolls out. I don't think it's going to be anything soon, any decisions on that.
So there you go. There when we say there's nothing happening, with the lawsuits, I was like, we'll see, whatever. When it comes to the DOJ, that's a real problem because they can be stupid and have no kind of accountability.
Talk about lawsuits, though, still. You mentioned the other day, and a really good friend of yours sent you a photo of a postcard.
Oh, God.
That stuff is still.
We got the ambulance chasers out. Now there's postcards going out to consumers. If you bought a hold or sold a hold in the last whatever, you may be a part of a class action lawsuit. It's the ambulance chasers you have now invited to our industry.
It is. That's the noise that I'm talking about. That's just go away.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Yeah, DOJ, I wonder how that will play out with NAR.
The problem is that DOJ can do whatever they want.
Correct. I know.
It's not a lawsuit where you can appeal or do whatever. The DOJ is, like I said, it's Gestapo. So when you have idiots that we just decided we're going to, and they don't, and again, they clearly don't understand our industry. Because once you start saying things like you're worried about the agent steering the buyer, guys, the data war ended over a decade ago. You clearly don't understand how real estate works today. And they're going to make rules. That's a problem. And I'm not even, guys, I could do a 4-hour show on unintended consequences here. But imagine the lawsuits and everything. Imagine what does our industry look like where we are actually rewarded for you not getting the house. Mm-hmm. We're rewarded for it taking longer. You go to a closing. Now there's an issue. You bring that buyer through the walkthrough. They don't like how it looks. They don't like that the seller didn't clean it like they should. And unlike before where they'd be like, look, I'll give up $200 for my commission. Let's get it done. What's important is that you're happy. They go, you know what? You can't be taken advantage of here. We need to have our attorney contact their attorney, and we need to go at this right now. We need this you can't be taking it, and let's make this last another 3 months because they didn't broom sweep it. There's a lot of good people in our industry. There's also a lot of scumbags. And who do you think is going to get the headlines in a world where they're billing hourly and it's advantageous for them to take as long as they possibly can? It is not a good outlook. So that's what I think about that.
Yeah.
Hey guys, you're watching this episode. This episode is brought to you first off by my company, Jared James Enterprises, or I like to call it just Jared James. I don't like to say the enterprises. But look, guys, we do coaching and training and speaking and all these other kind of things to make you better. And it's funny because I've talked about for years the idea that we're in a pros versus amateurs market, and we're seeing that more than ever right now with hundreds of thousands of agents leaving the business, and so many that have such good intentions, but they're not sure how to really get there, right? Have you ever had a disconnect between what you intended to do and then what your actions actually were every day? And that's why you need a coach, right? I've been watching the news lately, especially sports news, and I'm watching, major coaches getting fired. But the one thing I know for sure is they're going to rehire someone, because the last thing they're going to do is have a group of professionals and not have a coach, because they won't perform at the same level, right? And we are no different. If you're watching this and you don't have a coach, I promise you you're underperforming. So make sure you check out jaredjamestoday.com. Get yourself a coach. If you're a brokerage, let's get you into brokerage ride training for the whole office. Very affordable. We get them training they need to be a pro and not an amateur, boost their performance, boost their confidence, boost all of it. We can do all of that for you. Second place here, we're also brought to you by another one of my companies called Cleared and Closed. Again, being a pro, you're going to hear this over and over again. You need a transaction coordinator. And so we took this very serious. We believe in it so much that we're offering you a free transaction. So literally you can come in, use one of our transaction coordinators for a free transaction. They'll do a custom workflow with you, all of it. And if you don't like them, there's no contract. So go to clearedandclosed.com, clearedandclosed.com, and give the experience that your consumers want, that they want to tell somebody else about, okay? And you do that not by doing everything yourself. You do that by running an organization, by running a business, not running around, and that starts the number one hire in every real estate business, whether you're day one or day 20,001, because there's no risk. You only pay if you actually close the file, is a transaction coordinator. So check them out, guys. They're amazing, okay? Do a consult. It'll be worth it. And last but not least, we are brought to you by another one of my companies, First Up, F-Y-R-S-T, firstup.com. If you're a broker and you're watching this, if you're an agent, tell your broker to get on firstup.com. I did something the other day online, and we talked about the difference between spending money, cutting spending, and going all in on investments, because investments bring returns. And there's a difference between checking boxes and buying tech tools so that you can sound good to the agents and having stuff that actually brings you a return. And in this mobile age that we live in right now, what First Up really does is it digitalizes that traditional whiteboard. The old days when you'd come into the office and everybody would talk about their listings that they have coming up, and they would talk about their open houses, and they would talk about all these things. The problem is everybody doesn't come in anymore and gather in those meetings, so that whiteboard's not quite as effective, okay? And so what we've done is we've taken that traditional whiteboard setup and we've digitized it. And so all of those listings that your brokerage has that are between the time of when they get signed to a listing agreement and they actually hit the MLS, you're allowed to promote those within your brokerage. That's completely compliant, completely allowed. And so what we did was we said, get rid of all the confusing Facebook groups and all the group text messages and everything that all your agents aren't paying attention to. We built an app, we built a tool that is so simple. Our goal is not like most apps, which is how long can we keep you on? It's how quickly can we get you off of that app. We want the agents on there less than 60 seconds a day. But what they're going to do is put all of their listings on it pre-market before they actually hit the MLS. It's going to notify everybody within the brokerage, that digital whiteboard, let them know what's coming on. It's going to buyer match, because the agents are going to put their buyer criteria in there, and it's going to let them talk back and forth about a buyer they have for it, because it's going to notify them that there's a buyer that matches. It's going to do all of this. You're going to have people, it's going to let them know if they need to assign somebody needs to do the open house for them, and so they can raise their hand or contact each other, do open houses, all of these kinds of things. Communicative tool, also one that brings ROI, double-ending deals in a compliant manner. And so this is something that every single brokerage in a 2024 world needs. And we're launching something real soon where we're only allowing so many within each market. So get on it now before it's too late. Take a chance. Go on over to firstup.com, FYRSTUP.com. Extremely affordable as a brokerage. But when you talk about ROI, return investment, every single one of you at the sound of my voice needs to be using firstup.com. You won't regret it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. Talking
Anyway.
about industry news still. So we received some news unexpectedly. Actually, you received it. It kind of sounds bad, like going into that. You received it and you shared it with me. Definitely a shocker, and I think we should touch on it.
Oh, yes.
We should touch on it
We're gonna
because
touch this, huh?
obviously this is a great friend of yours. I mean, you guys have done business together for so long, partnered together on so many things.
You're talking about Nick
I'm
Bailey
talking
being
about
let
Nick
go
Bailey.
at Remax.
Yeah.
By the way, friend of both of ours.
Oh, amazing people.
Vacationed
Nick and his
with
wife,
them.
Hannah, love them. Yeah.
Love them. Like we've done New Year's Eve with them. We've
Yeah. So you got the news unexpectedly. I didn't see
I
it
got the
coming.
message. So I had been in meetings all day. I was super busy. I hadn't checked my emails. I hadn't checked my like literally the only person I was responding to was you or my kids. I hadn't seen anything. And then I got a text message that said, is Nick okay? And I was like, my initial reaction was like, oh my God, like he got hurt.
Is
he
Nick
got,
okay? Yeah,
like,
that was
you know, like I was like, this isn't good, you know.
Yeah.
And found out that
You
he had
called
been,
him right away, text him right away.
Yeah, we immediately.
Yeah.
He was let go at Remax, and
Tom, did you hear about this? Yeah.
Okay, so if you could see inside my head right now, I have a lot to say that I won't say on the podcast. Okay. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
I obviously let me say this. I obviously don't agree with it.
Well, there has been some things that put out
Yeah, that was just
nonsense.
I don't want to touch on all that stuff, but it's nonsense. But two sides to this. I don't agree with it. I felt like Nick was the right person for that job, and they hired a new CEO of holdings, and new people come in, everybody's at risk. You know, that's it. That's how it is. I will say that the position was given to Amy Lessinger, who is also a good friend of both of ours.
Yeah.
And so when I got the news, I was very torn because I was very sad for Nick and I was very happy for her personally. And I believe the text I actually sent to her was, hey, wow, what a day. But on a personal side, congrats to you, you know? And I meant that. Like I mean, you and I both legitimately love Amy. Like if you know Amy, you love
She's
Amy.
great,
Amy is a sweetheart. Amy is awesome. Like she's a genuine person. Me saying I didn't think, you know, it was shocker and it wasn't right and I, you know, whatever is not anything against.
Absolutely not against her.
We love Amy. Yeah. Like, you know this. Like you and I, we've said how many times we got to make time to go, like, because she always says, like, come out to my ranch.
Just
come
moved out to Denver.
Yeah, exactly. And like, we're like, we got to do that. We got to, you know, and then just life gets in the way, whatever. You know, she would like, come ride horses with me. You know, come do, you know.
You don't want to see me on a horse, Amy.
Yeah.
I've never been on one. Don't know if I can handle it.
If I get up, it'd be like an Old Spice commercial. But so I just want to be very clear. Like we love Amy. That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying. I'm just saying that that was a shocker. And when people get new jobs, anybody's at risk, you know. And Nick will land on his feet.
As he always does.
Nick is in the prime of his career. You know what I mean? He's in the prime of his career. He has a ton of relationships, a ton of, you know, whatever. He's a skilled talent. I look at it not because of Amy taking over, but more about Nick not being there, because before you had both of them. I look at it as a net loss for Remax. But having said that, I still root for them. I'm speaking at R4. And, you know, look, I worked with Remax when I was an agent. I obviously work with all brands, you know. I do all the brands events. When I was in Portugal, I was doing 121 for C21. You know, I'm going to do Howard Hanna coming up. I'm coming to do, you know, like I work with all the brands, obviously. But I will root for them because we have so many agents and otherwise that work with them. And so I want them to do well, and I will do everything I can to help them do well. You know, obviously I love Nick. He's a personal friend of mine, right? And then my job is obviously what I do with the network. And I want the network to do well regardless of decisions that are made and otherwise.
Absolutely.
And so I'll be doing just like I always do, working my butt off to train them and help them and work with them. And we've got students with them. We've got brokerages with them. We've got brokerages that use First Up. We've got...
Just might look a little different.
Yeah, it's just a little, it'd be a little weird at R4, like him not being there, but I guess we'll get used to it. He'll land on his feet, and I'll do whatever I can for him as a friend.
Amy just needs to come in like parachuting.
Amy needs to come in parachuting.
Just,
No, she comes in riding on a horse, on a white horse, like an old Western. I mean, maybe that'll be the new thing.
They look like siblings.
She's going to have to dye her hair red, period.
Yeah,
She's
right.
just going to have to dye her hair red like Nick did. Guys, Nick didn't dye his hair red. I'm just kidding. That
And
was
Amy's
his hair.
is red. So
Fortunately for him, he was born with red hair. But
no, but I mean, obviously, like it's like a bittersweet.
for anybody out there listening with red hair, that's a joke between Nick and I. I'm not actually joking about you. It's just a joke we have.
But excited for Amy.
Excited for Amy. I'll still be working with the network, doing all sorts of stuff like we do.
I'm looking forward to seeing where Nick lands. Like,
honestly. Like I said, there's a
fun.
lot I can't say, so it's just kind of, I got all your messages, guys. If I didn't respond to everybody, I'm sorry, but it's just not,
you are so like influential in the Remax brand. It's always been like you and Nick on a road show. So I felt like it's
I go somewhere, they're like, "Where's your boy?" He goes somewhere, they're like, "Where's your boy?" Yeah.
Yeah, and so
I'll miss that, but he'll land somewhere, and
yeah.
To me, it's a benefit to the agents. I love that kind of stuff. I think there's something about having fun, but also, knowing what you're doing. And I'll miss that there with him. I'm sure it's going to happen somewhere else, but I'll miss that there. But it doesn't mean that we won't still have other mememories there. And like I said, Amy's awesome. So like I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does. And I meant it when I said it. Like I am personally happy for her.
Yeah.
Although whenever somebody takes a job like that, it's like when someone takes over I'm the next president of the blank association of realtors. I don't know whether to say congratulations or God bless you.
My boss, when I worked at the MLS, she always said, because I was asked to take over as an AE.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it, and she's on my advice, always play number 2. It's safer.
Oh.
And number 2 is always safer. Don't ever be number
true.
1.
That's so true.
And quite honestly, it's one of the reasons why I didn't actually interview with the board of directors.
Such good advice.
And why I ended up resigning. And it's true. Number 1 is not a safe position to be in.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to use the podcast to do this, but we've decided to replace you at first up, actually.
No, but there's a lot of truth.
Tom, you want to take over?
Absolutely.
I'm just saying there's a lot of truth in that. There's a lot of eyeballs, on people.
No doubt.
I mean, having a drink for fun, and you happen to say something that.
Do you know what's funny? I think I can share
like
this.
that.
I think I can share this. You know what Nick said to me one time? So those lists come out. Most influential, most powerful, most whatever, right? You know what he said to me once? So we were both on this list, right? And he literally said to me, he goes, guys like you are the real powerful ones. And I'm going to make this make sense in a second. I'm not saying it's whatever, but his point was so true because it reminded me of something my father told me years ago. He goes, yeah, I'm up there. I'm like number 8, number whatever he was or whatever in the industry. And he goes, I can get fired tomorrow. He goes, and you're still around. Because you have your own thing. Like, that's how it goes. And I always appreciated that perspective, but it reminded me of something my father said to me. My father said to me years ago, he was working at NASDAQ, and every time he thought he was going to leave, they gave him more stock options. They just keep dangling the carrot. And one time in like a real serious moment, like a real moment, he looked at me and he's like, you're doing it right. And I was stressed from trying to build my companies and do whatever. I'm like, what are you talking about? You get this cozy freaking check every week. You have stock options, you have retirement, you have whatever, right? Like, and he goes, they can get rid of me tomorrow.
You're replaceable.
Yep.
Yeah.
He goes, think about it. I got this job because they got rid of my person on each region of the country. They got rid of them all and made me the head over everything. But everybody else lost their job. They can get rid of me tomorrow. He goes, no one can get rid of you. Now you're going to have stress. No one can get rid of you. Yeah. That's always stuck with me, right?
That's so true.
And at the end, it ended up, with Nick, it ended up happening. And it was out of no fault of his own or anything that he could have done or whatever. And it came true. And he's, like I said, he's going to land on his feet.
He will.
But it is an interesting thing where you're right. It's like when you're number 1, when you work, for someone, they can.
The board of directors are your boss.
Board of directors you get on the wrong side. You don't see them. They're not on the list, but they can. Good day to you.
I know.
In the words of Willy Wonka.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I didn't go for the AE position. It wasn't a safe position, and quite honestly, I'm a risk taker. I like risks, but it's not one that I would put my family in at the time.
It's so interesting that you're right though, because I see Nick as very much like he likes to take chances, he likes to do things, whatever, and it's just so different when you are running a publicly traded company. Like you answer to that board, and you answer to I can make mistakes here and go, all right, guys, we're gonna pivot. We're going to change.
Absolutely.
We're going to whatever. And everybody's like, all right, let's do it, whatever. I can't imagine. I said on a recent podcast, I said in every very successful person, there's a little bit of crazy. When you answer to other people who are waiting for you to misstep or waiting for you to do something they don't like, you can't exercise that crazy.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you want to pivot because you believe it's best. it's still a voting decision based on the board of directors.
And you got numbers you're reporting every quarter, and here's for the shareholders,
Yes.
and here's for the,
Absolutely.
and so, I feel that's why I said when it comes to Amy or any of those, I don't know whether to say congratulations or God bless you, because
Good luck.
it's
Yeah.
amazing career achievement, and then it's also just the stress that comes with that. Who was it who said the crown is heavy? There was an old saying, like
yes.
people would say, like, it was repeated in The Departed by Jack Nicholson, but it's an old saying, like, the crown is heavy. And what does it mean? It's like everybody's like, there's the king. Oh, look at that guy. He's amazing. He's all powerful. And from his perspective, he's going, the crown is heavy. And he's talking about the stress. He's talking about everybody relies on you. Every problem comes to it's like being the president of the United States. Everybody's like, oh, my God, everywhere you go, they play the music and stand when you walk in. And yet every morning you wake up to, Mr. President, problems, more problems. Mr. President, more problems every single morning.
Yeah.
And it's like I'd rather not walk into a room with music playing and not wake up to that every day. And so you just have to weigh it. It's always, Speaking of weighing,
And problems.
not talking not talking about health, but another common theme right now in our industry, and something I've been talking about lately, is this whole Homes.com Zillow thing.
Zillow.
So
Yeah.
Homes.com invested almost $1 billion in a marketing campaign through the Super Bowl and other things, and endorsements and all this other kind of stuff that they're doing. And there's an interesting thing happening right now, because Homes.com's whole theme is you're listing your lead. If your listings are on our portal, the leads go to you, which is like what so many agents get angry at Zillow for. But I look at it a little differently. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And when you look at Zillow with their situation, how they're positioned right now, where the majority of their revenue, almost the majority of the revenue, comes from agents paying for areas and getting buyer leads and such. What happens in a world if the DOJ gets involved and now everybody requires a buyer agency agreement, to where the buyer has to sign an agreement with the buyer's agent for their exact commission and what they're going to pay them? It's no longer by the seller. And now that has to be done up front. You need a signed piece of paper before you can show a house, before you can talk about a house. What happens to a place like Zillow, where the majority of their revenue comes from selling buyer leads to agents, where now a buyer agent can't talk to those people unless they get something signed? Kind of kills the business model, which means that, and I trust that they'll be able to. This is what they've done several times. They're going to have to pivot.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see, what do they pivot to? Do they pivot to majority seller leads? Do they pivot to hiring agents? They've already had agents, but now just only hiring their own agents and having some kind of a waiver that you sign in order to get on Zillow, that you have to sign beforehand. So any buyer they assign you to, you now have a built-in agreement with them.
Small print agreement.
But here's the thing, though. That's barrier to entry. If you're going to start having a signature required, some kind of a waiver or a form signed, and you're in a war right now with Homes.com, which they are. CoStar has all the money in the world, and Homes.com is coming for them, right? And you're now going to create a barrier to entry, to where if I go to Zillow's site, I've got to fill out a form and where if I go to Homes.com, it's nice and simple and easy. And so I'm so interested, and I'm not Nostradamus, like I don't know, but I'm interested in looking at how these rules, if they get enacted, will affect not only the industry, but the third parties in the industry, places like Zillow and these places, and the war with Homes.com and Zillow, and what does that look like? And I'm interested, because there's going to be some real business 101 coming as far as how they pivot and what they do to remain, to retain market share and revenue.
So I'm not too familiar with Homes.com, very familiar with Zillow. How does Homes.com support buyer agents then? How do they, if it's your listing, your lead, how do those that are predominantly a buyer agent, have a team of buyer, like only work with buyers, how do they support?
Well, generally speaking, when you have those listings, most people are not just listing agents. Okay, so
correct. Yeah, they're on a team though.
No, so they're gonna be representing that buyer, or if they have a team, it's gonna go to the team. Okay, as far as their exact model, I literally, because I put out some videos lately on my social channels, and somebody from CoStar reached out to me, and they're like, she actually said, the people in our office are like, they're all watching your videos right now as far as what's going on. We love seeing this, whatever. I would love to jump on and do like a demo with you and show you exactly what we do, how we do it, where we're going, and whatever. And so come back to me.
Oh, so we don't know.
I told
Okay.
her when I got back from Mexico that I will.
I'm just curious, how do they support an agent that really is just getting in the industry? A lot of agents just getting in, either are their network, their Rolodex is family.
Yeah.
Are you listening or are you buying?
Yeah.
Like, but how do I go to homes.com and use it as a buyer's tool?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I think Zillow is, I don't know. I would be curious to see like who has the market.
Yeah.
Versus Zillow, homes.com, but Zillow.
Zillow has the market right now. That's not even a whatever.
Okay.
But remember, homes.com now in the portal wars quickly went past everybody and moved into number 2.
Correct, but I think is it more so because there's a lot of acquisitions that happen as well.
No.
Underneath.
They made acquisitions, true,
Yes.
but that's not why they moved into number 2. They definitely had money to spend, consumer experience. They became agent friendly, which makes agents promote them, and they're spending money like crazy. And so forever, Zillow didn't have a match. You know, it was like, oh, Zillow, Realtor.com. That was not a match. Zillow was dominating. You know, like it wasn't. Now they have a true match.
But
and
correct
the reason,
me, wasn't homes.com purchased by CoStar?
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. I think
Yeah.
because of the acquisition, money flew
Oh, I thought you
in.
meant them buying
No,
other places.
no, money flew in because
so that's
obviously
so
it's
that's
coming from
literally where
parent
I was going
company.
next.
Yeah.
Was that because they were purchased by CoStar, you now have a big daddy.
Exactly.
You have CoStar, which owns LoopNet, which dominates the commercial world, which owns Apartments.com, which dominates the rent, which owns like you got a big daddy now. And so Homes.com is now going, we've got the funding now. Like we're coming for you.
Correct.
Okay. And so now, in my mind, it's a real match now. It's an actual heavyweight
That's so
fight.
interesting. I wouldn't
Because none of those places could compete with Zillow.
prior to the acquisition, and we don't know this, but it'd be so interesting if there was a conversation between CoStar and Zillow that just didn't happen. And he's like, great, then I'll go to your next best. I'll go to the next
As far as
best.
CoStar buying Zillow?
Yeah,
that'd
I
be
wonder.
tough.
And we don't know, but
Yeah.
I wonder if there was that conversation, and now there's like, because why would they go to second best, third best?
Well, because purchase price.
Homes.com. I know, but I'm just saying.
Because remember what
what
they did. What they did was they
there.
bought HomeSnap as
Yes,
well,
yeah.
and what a lot of the feedback from the agents right now is that the UI experience, whatever, is not as good as it was on HomeSnap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's what you hear from a lot of agents. When agents hear me talk about Homes.com and such, they're like, oh, but it's still just, could they just bring back HomeSnap? So it's going to be interesting now moving forward if that money is not only put into advertising to the consumer, which $1 billion, you know, to get them over to the platform, but also do they start using that money to make it extremely user-friendly the way that agents loved HomeSnap?
Yeah.
And I would be shocked if they didn't. I'm kind of making a play that I think they will. I'm making a bet that they will make that play. But time will tell. And that's why this is so interesting right now.
I mean,
Because
if
it's like the
they
unknowns.
pay attention to the adoption rate, the user rate, the clicks, the drops, all
Yeah.
of that, then sure, they're forced.
You've got to believe.
forced
If
to.
you look at what they've done with every other company, you've got to believe that they're going to.
Yeah.
You've got to. So anyway,
That is
it's
interesting.
an interesting world right now. Another thing I want to talk about is, you know, we did on the real estate front, you know, I did a video where I talked about capital gains and got a lot of views, a lot of whatever. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that with capital gains, when you live in a home for 2 out of the last 5 years as your primary residence, if you're a person who files taxes individually, you get up to a $250,000 exemption from taxes. Meaning, if I buy the property for $200 and I sell it for $500, well, I only pay taxes on $50,000 because $250 is covered, right? And if you're a married couple, it's $500,000. But a lot of the comments that came in on that video, which were really so interesting, and I don't know why I never thought of this, but it's just true. Should there be different rules for those capital gains exemptions based on, number one, where you live, where it's different price points? $250,000 is different in Mississippi than it is in Mrs. California. Okay, like it's just different, right? And then also, should it be adjusted based on the fact that prices aren't what they were back when it was made? Now, me personally, I don't think they'll adjust it because that would lower the money coming into the government. If the government looked at it and said, at the time that we created this, the average price point was $217,000. So we're going to give a $250,000 for an individual and a $500,000 for a married couple, and that should cover everybody. You're not penalized for moving. You're not. But the climate has changed so much where now it's like, how can we get more taxes from people? How can we get them to pay? That now, if you look at the average price point is $434, let's just say it doubled. Well, really, that exemption should have changed from $250 to $500, and the $500
Correct,
should have
yeah.
changed to $1 million. But the culture and the mindset has changed so much that it's like, nope, more taxes coming to us. When that defeats the whole purpose of why that was created. And so the question becomes, should there now be adjustments on those capital gains exemptions because there's been adjustments on the price of a property?
Now that's what the DOJ should be looking at, right? Stuff like that.
And that's the kind of thing that the DOJ should be looking at that actually benefits the consumer rather than messing up the real estate transaction, which hurts the consumer. But will they do it? I have yet to see the government do something that goes, well, this will bring us less taxes. Let's do it. Haven't seen that yet. Love to see it. Haven't seen it yet. So what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll
That's
see.
super interesting.
Anyway, we got to move it on here because we have a dinner party tonight.
We do, but before we do that, I'm stressed about.
Okay.
Okay, I'm stressed about
The dinner party. I got my boys' girlfriends coming over tonight, so we're having a nice little
Mediterranean feast.
Mediterranean
It'll
meal.
be fun. But before that, the other day, I think coming back from the gym or going to the gym or getting coffee, whatever it was, we talked about our greatest skill sets.
Oh, you're talking about our conversation the other day in the car.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Elaborate.
So you and I were talking in the car, and you were asking me about what I think one of my greatest skill sets are, like whatever. What do you think separates you? And when I answered you, your exact response was, "You need to say that on the podcast."
Put it down in our notes fast. Let's do it.
So you wanted to know what my greatest skill set was, and we'll end with this because we do have to get going here. I think that one of my greatest skills has always been probably not what most people would think it is. You know, when people go, "Oh, it's leadership, it's this, it's that, it's whatever." I think one of my greatest abilities, one of my greatest skills, is pattern recognition. That's what I've always been really good at. You know, where I am able, both for the positive and the negative, to recognize patterns and the results of those patterns.
So give us an example.
And then making a decision to either continue on or to look at what we were talking about in the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah.
Some people get involved in health groups, have all the hopes in the world, and die off in 9 days. What did I say to you today? We were at the gym, and we were running on the treadmill.
Yeah.
And I had gotten to the 4 mile mark, and I'm sweating and I'm whatever. And most people at that point would sit there and go, "Whew, great workout. I'm feeling it." And in my head, pattern recognition, I started looking at history and past and whatever. I started looking at, and I remembered that interview with Muhammad Ali, where Muhammad Ali was going to defend his title. And the reporter asks him, so, in preparation for this fight, how many push-ups do you do? How many sit-ups do you do? And he says, "I don't count." And then he stops himself and he goes, "That's not true. I don't count until it hurts, because that's the only time it counts." And me, always remembering that, always knowing that, looking at that pattern of when everybody else would stop, he would push, because that's when it counted. Sat there at the 4 mile mark, hurting as could be, sweating, could easily throw in the towel and go, "Look at me, everybody." And I went, it finally counts. This is when it counts. This is like bonus time. This is it, right? And so I've done it in that sense when it comes to things personally or working out or whatever, but then I also do it when it comes to business. Like when we've had to let people go or things have happened, like I'll talk to Tom or I'll talk to you and I'll be like, "Hey, this is what's going to happen. They're going to do this. They're going to do whatever. We need to make sure we cover this. We need to whatever." It's just all pattern recognition. It's not that you're some brainiac, whatever it is. It's like I'm just like seen it, know how we should do this now, right? And so I'm not the greatest at always doing things perfect the first time, but I am really good at recognizing patterns and saying, that's the way we do that from now on. This is, and that's in everything. I'm not talking just business. I'm just talking personal. I'm talking, I like an eagle. I just watch patterns of people and I look at the results and then I look for ways to plug those in my own life. And it has served me well. And by the way, I watch my own patterns. Yeah. That's self-awareness. I watch others' patterns. I watch my patterns. I watch like I'm very, you can testify to this. I am very regimented when I'm on a schedule, when I'm on every day, same thing, whatever, order the same thing, do the whatever. I'm about those patterns because they deliver predictable results, right? And isn't that what we all want? Like there's some things where we want variety. One of the 6 basic human needs, variety. You know, like we want variety. We want to change things up. We want to, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we need consistency. And we need to know what to expect. And we need to know, well, how do you find out what to expect? You just look at the pattern. If I go and I put together all of the ingredients for bread, and I follow that pattern, and I put it in the oven, if I put it in the oven and then I go, everybody, cupcakes, ta-da! And then I pull it out and I go, where's the cupcakes? Well, you followed the pattern for bread. Therefore, you got bread. That is the simplest way that I can explain how pattern recognition works. In every area of your life, you are creating bread or you're creating something else. And it's the ingredients and the pattern you follow, and it's the degrees that you set it to, and it's how many minutes you put it in, and it's how many, it all matters. And so just like we understand that in the kitchen, we need to understand that everywhere. And so what I think I do really well, and I do better than most, just because I pay attention to it, it's just pattern recognition. I just see what's happening, and I'm like, there it is, got it. Oh, I know how to make lasagna now.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, and it's that simple. So there you go for the
Thank
podcast.
you. I love just asking random questions like that in the car.
I know you do. I see when you go into that mode too.
What do you like? It's always something, and when we
You
have
do,
these
though. You
great
go into that mode.
conversations, and it gets me. I just get to know you a little deeper.
Yeah, I
love
enjoy
it.
it. I almost feel like we do like a little. What's that show on Bravo with the guy who does the interviews of the actors?
Andy?
The Actors Studio.
It's not Andy.
With no, he's getting canceled right now. He actually is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently. Who knows if it's true or not, but he's got all sorts of stuff going on right now
okay.
where he was doing blow and asking people to watch him have sex. And
Okay.
we don't know if it's true or not, but it's all you have to do is accuse, so who knows? Which I hope it's not true. He's John Mayer's best friend.
Aw.
But Inside the Actors Studio with...
Don't know.
I can't remember the name
Bummer.
right
Someone please comment below.
Anyway,
I
I
don't
can
know the
tell.
show, but I think you're talking about Andy Cohen.
No,
That's
that's
what
the
I
guy we were
was
talking about
saying.
before. No, that's the guy
I
we were
was
talking about
saying Andy
before.
Cohen,
You're
but,
saying
like-
it's getting canceled right now.
Oh, he's getting canceled.
No, I'm talking about Inside the Actors Studio, which is the show on Bravo, which was the one where he
Someone
would
here
interview
listening
actors,
will
and it was like a
hopefully
big,
drop the
in-depth, deep type of. They even did a thing on him on SNL. It's driving me crazy. But anyway, you guys, so you guys know, I know when you go into that mode. Because you have different personalities. That sounds bad. Like you're not multiple personalities.
I'm
No, but you like all people. You have different sides to you. And I get like last night you were in like a lovey mode. Like you just couldn't. You just like hugging on my, like you just wouldn't stop, right? Which I love. And then other times you're in a serious, like other times you're in a business mode. Other times you're in mom mode. Other times you're in, when you go into that mode,
Yeah.
when you start asking questions, I'm like, oh, she's in that mode
like
now.
one day I was like, so how are you? And you're like, what? like, no, how are you?
I'm like, what is it? Where's this
What's
going?
going on?
What's going on here?
I just want to know.
Anyway, we've got Mediterranean food to make. We've got Mexico to get to.
And then we have game night.
We're doing game night tonight.
What should we
What's
buy?
that old saying? If you're not willing to lose friends over a board game, you're not playing hard enough.
Oh, I never heard
That's
that.
100% true.
My boys
Is
and
it?
their girlfriends are about to find out what it's like to feel defeat.
Well, it is a couples game, so hopefully they don't.
Well, then you better bring
everything
it.
goes. Oh, okay.
Better bring it.
No pressure.
Okay. Didn't go there to lose to my boys and their girls. Okay. Either way, guys, thank you for watching, listening, however you're doing this. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give a review. All of that stuff. We love you guys. Whatever platform you're watching on, we'll keep doing this.
Yeah.
A lot of valuable info on here. A lot of current stuff happening. So there's plenty to talk about. So
I know.
hopefully I'll see you at an upcoming event. Hopefully we'll get a chance to have a lot of you as users on First Up, FYRSTUP.com.
I
If your
know.
broker is not using that within your brokerage yet, get on it. Hopefully we'll get a lot of you as coaching students and brokerage-wide coaching. And we started giving out free transactions on Cleared and
I mean, we're
Closed for
going into the
transaction
spring
coordinators.
market. There's some like big stuff happening.
We launched today, actually. We're allowing people to get a free transaction using one of our transaction coordinators with
Really?
no.
Tom, is this true?
Yep.
Yeah.
No contract, no nothing. Do the consult with one of our TCs, transaction
gosh.
coordinators. They'll create a custom workflow for you, and then you get to experience them,
Free
see if they're good.
transaction.
We are the real estate's crack addicts. Like we are giving out free crack, getting
good.
you hooked, and then from now on you'll have a TC.
Everyone get.
That's
a free
what should be on the
transaction.
site. We are real estate's crack dealers.
Do it.
On that note,
Anyways.
all right, guys, we love you. Thanks for listening.
All right. Bye.
Talk to you.